ideators and entrepreneurs, CUNY Startups here. Welcome to CUNY and Beyond, the podcast dedicated to helping aspiring entrepreneurs through storytelling. We're excited to dive into the entrepreneurial endeavors of CUNY students, alum, and bonus entrepreneurs who are willing to share their valuable insights with you. Join us for today's show.
Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to CUNY and Beyond. My name is Gail Yancosek, and I have been a mentor and involved with CUNY Startups for quite a few years, and I'm delighted to introduce you to today's guest, who is Natalia Sandor, who I met several years ago when she was part of the CUNY Startup program that I was mentoring. So I feel we have a strong connection and a long connection. Before we talk about your involvement with CUNY Startups, I want you to tell us, because before you got involved with that program, you already had a business going. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so when I was a freshman in college, I was a little bored my second semester and thinking about things I could do to create my own opportunity and get myself in spaces where I can challenge myself and learn. So I started an ice cream sandwich company. Basically in the spring of the end of my freshman year and then into the summer. And it's still open, still running in like almost 30 locations now, shops and markets. And I sell direct to retail, but it's ice cream sandwiches called Bars Handcrafted, chocolate chip cookies on the outside and local ice cream in between. But yeah, it was an amazing experience for me to be running that throughout college and kind of explore as a student what it meant to run a business and how to deal with all of the craziness that comes with wearing 1,000 hats and being 1,000 different people.
I mean, for you, and I know CUNY students quite well, and CUNY students are very busy. CUNY students have a ton, and you were in Macaulay honors, am I correct?
Yeah.
Macaulay, so that's even more work for you. And then you start a business that's still going and expanded and managed to not only do all your work at school, but you're graduated now, you're working. So you did that outside the CUNY Startups program. When you got into CUNY Startups, that's where you and I met several years ago. You had come in, I think, with your own idea, if I remember it, but in the end, we're teamed with some young women you didn't know ahead of time. I found that, quite honestly, since I worked with you guys, I thought that was an extremely successful partnership. But tell us a little bit about how that was, because that's sort of a grassroots start from a picture and go to a prototype. So how was that experience, number one? And then how did it compare with what you went through on your own?
Yeah, so when I first applied for CUNY Startups, I actually didn't apply with any idea at all. I just wanted to be on a team. But I think for me, I was looking at it and I was like, well, it's more for the idea stage, to, like you were saying, into the kind of first iterations of what it could be as a startup. But Sandbars at that point was a little bit way like farther along. It needed a different program. So my intention for joining was kind of just to learn. Basically, I had no help in the beginning with Sandbars holding my hand through that process. So it's a little bit of like an ego situation where I'm like, I want to check whether or not I did this the right way when I first did it.
And you did, for sure.
But the second piece was also just to like be a part of a startup community and to meet different people that like were like-minded, because as a solo entrepreneur, it gets like really lonely. So I think for me, like selfishly, it was about being a part of something bigger than myself and being something bigger than just me and my own company, and like being a part, learning how to work on a team, learning how, like, if someone were to teach somebody how to begin a startup, what the actual like textbook lecture on it is. Like, I think it was out of like pure curiosity and interest, and like, just like, I like to nerd out on that stuff. So for me, it was about just getting a part of it all. Yeah.
You may have had a few hiccups in the beginning, but I do remember that as things went along, you all meshed very, very well together, and you brought the strength they were missing. They gave you a strength you might have been missing. And I remember that that particular CUNY startup program was really successful in how you all went from not very much to really a completed product. And is that still online today? Is that Connect Turn? Am I right?
Yeah. It ended up switching names. We originally started as Explorer, and then we realized that that's a car and a search engine.
Yeah.
So that was a big learning lesson for us too. But yeah, it's called Connect Turn. Crystal, and we actually picked up some like new team members along the way, are still working on it actually. Like, it's still currently being worked on and like coded. I'm a little bit like removed from the project now, but I'm still like higher level involved. She'll reach out every few months and just keep me posted on like where they are at with all of the like functionality and everything like that. But I'd say the biggest part of like the learning in the program for me was like how to build a pitch deck, right? How to speak to different people like venture capitalists, or like how to even interact with an advisor, be a part of mentoring and things like that. So for me, it was a lot of exposure to like the pitch deck wasn't something, it was something I was aware of and like was working on kind of one-off in my own business.
Yeah.
To have a 9-week program like dedicated to like learning about each slide and like having that kind of nitpicked by people that are in like the industry. Exactly. By people like you just can see it differently. When you're in it, you think like you work so hard on something, you can't see things as well as someone coming in from outside. So I think like the like in-depth, like very detailed education on a pitch deck is probably one of the most useful like courses I've ever taken in my life. Since then, I've done a ton of business programs. I've been a part of leadership programs and like kind of outside small business programs and stuff like that beyond CUNY Startups. And I think it was a really, really good baseline education for me to know how to like the real like nuts and bolts. Now I understand pitch decks even at a higher level and it's like way more intense, but to have the nuts and bolts from CUNY Startups was like, it's a baseline of my education in entrepreneurship.
I will say from my perspective as a mentor during that time, and now I've been involved in it several years, the pitch deck to me was such a key element, but not the only element. And I was educated in building it with you and with your team. So you're right, it's a useful tool. I also found that the give and take with the teams, with the entrepreneurs and the mentors was a really exciting part of it. I think that it helped build for both our side of the fence and your side. There was a really strong bond and a great connection to say, this is all about you. We want you to succeed. You certainly have. You went above and beyond that. Let's go into the next phase of that. And I'm happy to hear that you guys are all still in touch, because I still hear from some of the teams and it's always nice to see what they're up to. But did you immediately get involved after that with Blackstone Launchpad, or was there something in between? Tell me about that.
No, there was definitely stuff in between. I like kind of bounced around on some different projects. I was working with just kind of as like a lower level broker for like different deals in entrepreneurship and like business. And then I did some like business development kind of stuff for like a little bit. And I was focusing on the ice cream sandwich company right after graduation. And then that was like also like peak of pandemic times as well, like sort of like a year or so after the CUNY program. But yeah, I think like after the program, I focused on finishing up school, graduating, and then I did a few little like jobs and projects and then was still running my business. And then about maybe a year and a half after I finished CUNY Startups, that's when I got the job at the College of Staten Island as the Blackstone Launchpad coordinator. Their initial like entrepreneurship programming at the college, they've never had like any type of like programs or education or curriculum surrounding it before. So it was really amazing to be a part of that, because schools like BMCC or Hunter or like Brooklyn, they all already have those programs established, but it was CSI's first time even writing any type of curriculum around it. So it was really cool for me. Like that was full circle for me, because I never like had that in college to like be a part of the building of that like initial programming. It was like really incredible to be there.
Do you think that it came as a result of you being involved or being considered because you were involved in the CUNY startup program? They took it to, I think, a next level. They had the money, and as you said, it's more a curriculum. We had a curriculum of some sort. Remy and Adia do a wonderful job with that. But do you think that level, you were helped by CUNY Startups? It seems to me that it gave you what we always hoped you got, which was that foundation.
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely, right? I think even when you talk about, I mean, in particular, it was a CUNY position, so it looks good to be associated with CUNY and to have had that experience through CUNY. And then the background, right? Like, so the actual application within the job, even though I was part of the Blackstone Launchpad, which like one side of it was connected to the business department that was like hosting the School of Business, that was hosting like the actual minor. Most of what I was doing was co-curricular anyway. So it was like competitions and ideas and pitch competitions. So like to be able to have the knowledge of like being a mentee within the CUNY program and applying that to like, okay, I'm working in a space where we work with CUNY students that are in the same spot that I was when I did CUNY Startups, right? What would I want at that time that I was getting? What was good about this that I want to like recreate in my position now? So I think like in an actual execution level, like because it's something that I have a lot of interest in, like educating youth and like being a part of entrepreneurial like education and also like equity and inclusion and stuff. So I think for me, like CUNY Startups is a really great and was one of the first like baseline programs I ever did. Again, I went on to do like a bunch of other programs, one through Santander Bank and Babson College. I did one, it was called the Startup Leadership Program. It's a global program. I did one on Long Island through something called Compel CEO. So I went on like and continued my education. CUNY Startups was like the spark of like that like flow of all the like continuing education like programs I did after college. It helped me like figure out what the students might want in my position through the Blackstone Launchpad.
So, Natalia, since Blackstone, I know that you enjoy mentoring or coaching. Tell me some of the things you've been doing now. I know you enjoy it. I know that it means something to you, that it's important to you to work with students, some of them not necessarily so young. Tell me, after Blackstone, what you went into in terms of using those experiences.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure that out still a little bit, but I would say I did like do like one-off coaching with a few different people, which was really interesting. Like I was coaching a few people in their 60s on their business, like getting started, and I was coaching someone with a noodle company up in like Maine. So that was pretty interesting. Like, and I was doing like kind of one-offs, like private coaching and business, and I've explored that interest a little bit by like dabbling in running like groups, accountability groups, peer support groups, just kind of on a lower level. And then I actually still stay in touch with one of my students from CSI, and it's not a technical like position as an advisor, but I pushed her to apply to CUNY Startups. She's won a few of the things, and she went on to win a national fellowship. And she'll call me once a month and have me review. I think she's in your most current, I don't know what the program is. It's like a pitch
We're
deck
doing one that starts Friday, a new
right
one,
now.
sort of a rapid, yeah. I'm in the Easy Meets group, which I've worked with them before,
Yeah.
Mark. So
Yeah, so that's the girl I coach.
that group is phenomenal, and they are you've done a very good job, because they're terrific, but they bring all the things that you and your team brought. They have an enthusiasm, they have a knowledge of it, and their presentation skills, because as you said, they've done several of these in different places, have so improved. So I'm happy to hear that.
Oh yeah. Me and Mara went to, like, when I was working at CSI, we worked real long on her presentation skills and her pitching. Yeah, for sure.
She won in the last group that I mentored, and they've really, watching them from a couple of years ago to here, it's been wonderful, as you guys did. So that's the wonderful part for us. Tell me about being one of Long Island's 30 under 30.
Yeah, I'm actually sitting next to the award right now. So
let me see it. I want to see it.
It's a little corny, but
I love it.
This is it.
Oh, that's fabulous. I love that. That's wonderful. And was that, or tell me what that was, that for your body of work on Long Island with the company, with the ice cream company?
Yeah. So it's a big honor. Yeah, it was very nice to be recognized in the paper and to have been presented the award. It was a lovely ceremony, and nice thing to add to your LinkedIn, and like kind of buffs things up a little bit. But yeah, it was awesome. I'm very grateful, and it was a great opportunity for me to meet some new people and everything. But yeah, they kind of took into play like how much you give back, and like your donations and the support to, I did a lot of work with like internships through my business too. So like having students learn from Sandbars, and kind of just donated my bars to, different things every year. I do about 2 or 3 different donation events every summer.
Good for you. Before I let you go, because we're running out of time, I do want to ask you a question about your work as an advocate for gender equality. People are still struggling. You would think people would be more accepting. We just interviewed someone yesterday who's trying to do work for family LGBTQ plus families who are at the poverty level, because people neglect that group. So tell me how that work and how that defines you, and what you find from that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I feel very like deeply about this, because women only receive less than 2% of venture capitalist funding every year, right? And I think like actually Blackstone sent us out to a conference called Startup Grind in California, and when I went, like it just wasn't reflective of our student body at CUNY, and it was really frustrating, and like to see people like pouring investment dollars into, ideas that were all right, but like, you know, nothing our students couldn't come up with, right? And I think like to, you know the game is a really tough pill to swallow, in that like it's a lot about who you know, and it's about getting in front of the right people. And that's why I think like programs like CUNY Startups are just equalizing programs, because once you get in, or once you're at like Blackstone, what Blackstone Launchpad is doing at CUNY as well, like it's creating amazing opportunities to connect like the diverse body of student at CUNY to the opportunities on a national level that like are kind of just built into other universities, you know. So I'm so glad that you know, initiative is going on right now, and that, you know, we're able to kind of get in the door that way, because I just think like that pathway, like if you, I think there was someone when I was in CUNY Startups from like Plug and Play Ventures, right? Kevin, I think his name.
Yes.
And like I just did the startup leadership program, you know, really intense. It was like a 10% acceptance rate. It was like a very serious program in the city, and like some of the most intelligent entrepreneurs I've met, you know, and they are impressed by Plug and Play. You know what I mean? Like they think it's awesome and they're freaking out. And I'm like, I met Kevin when I was like, you know, 20, whatever, you know, 20 years old. And like that's just so amazing that like programs like CUNY Startups and Blackstone Launchpad are creating opportunities like that for CUNY students, because it's like, again, you're against all the odds. Like 1.9% is not a big percent for women, right? And that's just women. Now we'll go into all of the other categories in which we like to not create opportunities for people, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I believe heavy in that kind of stuff, but yeah, I try my best to obviously being a woman, and I identify as queer as well. So like I put those kind of things on my packaging and my marketing materials as best I can. And sometimes it's scary, right? Like it hasn't been an easy like battle for me to like want to print like queer run on the back of my packaging. I've gotten like even like my family lashback on like, oh, is that gonna like people gonna like that, or are people gonna like boycott buying your product because you have that on there? And those are just kind of things that like you have to at some point, like it's about having representation out there, I believe heavily in like just being able to see yourself in other people. So as best I can, like I, through my work at the Blackstone Launchpad, even though I'm not there anymore, and some of the stuff, the coaching stuff and the peer support groups that I've participated in, I try at the very least to give people something to look to. Like even if Sandbars doesn't turn out to be anything and I close down this year, like entrepreneurship is about like the everyday, like figuring it out. This is not my last venture.
I am as proud as I was of you after the end of our first group session together when we worked for those 9 or 10 weeks. And I'm as proud today of you. You are an amazing young woman. And I'm delighted that we had time to catch up today. And I always love seeing you and hearing from you. So as always, please keep in touch. And thank you for taking this time out today, Natalia.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Great to see you. Bye-bye.
More than the whole world against me. See, I ain't worried cause I got the greatest in me. I know I'm human problems, yeah, I got plenty.